friends, this is Jose from StampinJo.com and welcome to this week's Stampin' Gals Gone Wild freebie. Now in this video I am super excited to show you some brand new colors, new stamp sets that are going to be coming out in the catalog on June 2nd, and what's fun is this is actually one of my favorite stamp sets in the catalog. I have lots of favorites, but this is definitely on the top of my list, so I was kind of glad this month that as a demonstrator I was able to pre-order these. So I'm going to show you how to do this card. I'm starting out with 4 pieces of cardstock. Now this here is one of our new in colors. It's called Blackberry Bliss, and it is a gorgeous deep purple. And so this is my card, so it's 5.5 by 8.5, and I've already folded it. And then I have another piece that's cut to 4 by 5.25. And then next I'm using another new ink color, and it's called Hello Honey. And this one is cut to 3.25 by 4.5. See how beautiful these two colors go together? I love it. And then I have a piece of Whisper White that is cut 3.25 by 3.25. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use our wood grain embossing folder, and I'm going to add texture to my Blackberry Bliss cardstock. See how beautiful this texture is going to be? So I'm just going to use the Big Shot and come right back. Alright, now that I have my beautiful texture, I'm going to add that to the front of my card. And generally when I work with a textured paper, I use the Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue because it just sticks a little bit better. So we're just going to do all 4 sides. Then I usually do just a little bit in the middle. The next thing I want to do is take my piece of Hello Honey cardstock with my Squares Collection framelits, and I want to place it about here to create my frame near the top. And this is the 5th from the smallest sizing wise. And generally when I use the framelits, I tend to use my magnetic platform because it is much easier to keep that framelit where you want it to be. So you can see I can place that and then it doesn't move. So when I put that through the Big Shot, I know it's going to stay exactly where it goes. Alright, so now that I've run that through the Big Shot, you can see I've got my little frame spot, and then you have an extra piece of cardstock that you can use again for something else. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Whisper White cardstock with my Blackberry Bliss ink. And when you get the new inks, they're really juicy. So remember, you don't have to press very hard on your stamp. And the stamp that I'm using is called Blended Bloom. This is one of my favorite stamp sets, like I said at the beginning, and look at how gorgeous it is. It's just a single stamp, and it has lots of details, and it is just made for coloring. So the technique I'm going to show you today is super easy, and any of you can do it. So we're going to ink that up, and we're going to do basically the 2 corners. So there. And when I use a bigger stamp, I tend to use the ink to the stamp. It's just a little bit easier. And we're going to do this corner here. Now you can color this in lots of different ways, but for this one I'm going to use my aquapainter with some water. Now you may or may not have noticed already that if water is placed on cardstock with our inks, they will smear, and in this case that's what we want it to do. So we're going to take that aquapainter, which has water inside. I'm going to add a little bit more to my barrel and start to color my flowers. So you want to really pull from that edging. Now it's not supposed to be perfect, so don't worry about whether or not it's perfect. And we are just going to add color everywhere. And when you're watercoloring, don't worry even if you are going a little bit outside the lines, it still looks beautiful. And I like to have kind of different shades of color, so you can see I try not to make it too perfect. And I just pull that color, and some spots will be darker and some spots will be lighter. So you're going to see I finished coloring the petals, and see how it's just kind of different shades, and it looks like the light is hitting it in different ways. I love it. This is a super simple technique. So now the middle I want it to be a bit darker, so I'm just doing a little bit of round circles just to kind of get that middle a little darker than the edges. So I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I've already pre-stamped a couple of flowers on our Hello Honey, and I'm going to take my 3/4 inch punch and just punch out that middle and add that right to the middle of our flowers just to give it a punch of color. So now I'm just going to take my white and just glue it to the back of my frame. Now, because it's such a small spot, you want to actually make sure you have a really good amount of glue that's going to hold it down. Now, if you're going to use your Tombow multi-purpose, you really do want just a tiny little bit, so you have to squeeze not too hard. I'm getting there. And then just go around the edges, otherwise it oozes out. One other thing I tend to do sometimes if it's not squeezing right is I just go on a scrap paper and just take some, and then I just kind of use that as my paint palette in a sense and start to bring it all the way around. So once you're done that, we're going to take our Something to Say stamp set, and this again is a new stamp set out of the next catalog, and it's got really cute greetings. It's got 17 different stamps in it. And so we're going to take the Your Goodness Makes Me Grateful with our artisan label punch, and we're just going to punch that right out. Now you're going to see in the original, we actually stamped this in Hello Honey, and in this one I'm actually going to stamp it in the Blackberry Bliss. And we're going to take a couple of dimensionals and just put it on the back and add that right to the front of our frame. And once we're done adding our cute little greeting, I'm going to take a little bit more of our Tombow, because again, with the texture, it's a little bit hard to keep that on with snail. It tends to pop off a little bit, and this stuff is really, really good for keeping on the texture to a flat surface. So I decided to add this just kind of on an angle, and there you go. Is that not the sweetest little card with great colors together? And I bet that makes you totally excited for the next catalog, because I know I am. So thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you next week in the next video.
Hey, if you wanna play, make it about a place. It'll take creation.